Hello. Today, well, I'm back down at the bottom of the garden. You know, one of my favourite places. Here, amongst the reeds, right beside the lake, at sunset. Just about, anyway. On this day, Oshlahu Toch, to talk with you about the Trecena of Tz'i. So this is, I know, like I say, this is a very interesting Trecena, right? And it is an interesting Trecena. It would be an interesting Trecena anyway. But there are more events that happen during this Trecena. In fact, you know, kind of like to take this Trecena to its crescendo at the end. The very final day of this Trecena is the solar new year, or at least sort of like amongst the traditional highland Maya people, as it were. And so we've got, you know, kind of like, let's say, well, there's a couple of things going on at the same time. So that's super interesting. So let's go through the Trecena and think about it, talk about it, get some ideas about how we can best use it. So the Trecena of Tz'i, well, what do we know about Tz'i? Tz'i, the Nawal of faith, loyalty. Tz'i, the Nawal of unconditional love. But Tz'i also we can see as the law, we can see as justice. And well, you know, kind of like if we're looking at this whole Trecena, like for me, it's about getting our faith back. It's about finding justice. It's about leadership in many ways, using our guidance, using our nose and our ears and our eyes, just as the dog would, in order to lead us forwards. Does it smell right? Does it taste right? Does it sound right? What does our guidance bring us, and how can we use this to, let's say, have some more faith in the world? So we're going to begin the Trecena on the day 1 Tz'i, Hun Tz'i. So 1 Tz'i, 1 being birth, or perhaps rebirth, as the case may be. 1 being beginnings, renewal, renovation, starting all over. And of course, Tz'i, as I said, can represent faith and loyalty, unconditional love. And, you know, kind of like, I don't know about you, but I certainly feel in the last few weeks, if not months, if not years, possibly even, that, you know, kind of like my faith in the world has kind of been tested, you know. We kind of like, we got belief systems, we've got ideas or whatever, and out there is the world, as the feedback that we're getting from the world, measuring up to what we have faith in, what we believe in. And sometimes our faith gets knocked, our loyalty gets knocked, you know. Sometimes we've lost that connection that we used to have because we've allowed our faith, you know, kind of like to be, well, tested, let's say. Well, 1 Tz'i might be a great day to renew that faith. 1 Tz'i might be a great day to kind of like renovate it, to come back to it and say, hang on, what is it that I'm loyal to? There's so many distractions along the way, so many temptations that have passed me by. What am I really loyal to in here? Where do I put my heart? And 1 Tz'i may be a great day to look into that and say, you know, I remember when I had that faith in this, or like that loyalty to this. Where did it go? I've been distracted by all of these other things that are going along that are maybe not the way that I thought things would go. And it's knocked me off my balance, knocked me off my perch. Rediscovering what it is that we're actually loyal to. Our family, our community, our friends, our home, all of these kind of things. 1 Tz'i would be a great day to renew that. Now it's also a time of new justice, like 1 Tz'i, you know, the justice coming along. And so perhaps there is something which may be brought to light in order to bring that justice out. From 1 Tz'i, we then move to 2 Bats. So Bats, the Nawal of the weaver, the Nawal of creation, creativity. Bats, the master artisan, the one, yeah, they're going to make beautiful things out of whatever they're given. And here we see it with the number 2, representing dualities, representing polarities. Yes, it could be yin and yang, or up and down, left and right, however we want to look at it. But it can also be like polar opposites. I start looking at it and saying, right, okay, here we have one side, here we have the other side. How can we weave them together? How can we come to, kind of like create something beautiful out of those polarities? Where are they going to come together? So this is a possibility, and I kind of look at it as like if you want to make something that has contrast, you have to weave in the dark and the light to it. You might want to make a beautiful white fabric, you might want to make a beautiful black fabric, however, the two polar opposites. But what happens when you start weaving together those two colours? Well, you start to get patterns, you start to get shapes, you start to get something which is more interesting. Think about it like, like print on paper, for example, I suppose print on a screen now or whatever. It's like one contrasting colour laid over a different one, which enables us to transmit information. And so, the ability to weave those polarities together might actually bring in a greater transmission of information or greater beauty than if there was just a single one. So, like, how is it that we're able to create a thing of beauty by weaving those two polar opposites together? It may become a stark contrast between what you find beautiful, what other people find beautiful. There's that in there as well. But it's like embracing both polarities, having faith in both polarities in order to create something beautiful in between. Two Bats works out how to weave them together. From Two Bats, we then move into 3R, a really interesting combination in a way, because we have 3, which can, like often represent kind of like the home place. It's the inner world. It's a retreating kind of like staying at home kind of feeling to it. And then R, which is the journey, which is about going out there, which is about going and exploring. And well, that's a really odd couple to put together, isn't it? Because you got one that wants to go out, one that wants to stay home. For me, it's about exploring the inner path, because I often think about the 3, about the creativity which we hold within us, which we access by taking a retreat, by staying at home, by, not necessarily going out and getting distracted. And in this time of, like, renewal of faith, as it were, and that kind of thing, saying, okay, like, take some time out to look within to find your path, because, like, it's all about the inner path. And there's a whole world in there to explore, wherever it might be. And in order to have that, kind of like faith to go forward, we need to explore all possibilities, including the ones which are not on the external world, but within. And so it's a great time for some inner exploration, to ask yourself the question, where is my path taking me as a person within me? Where does my path lead next? From 3R, we then move into 4R. Now, this could also be a very much a stay-at-home day. We have, like the Trecena of Tz'i, a lot to do with faith and loyalty to those that we unconditionally love. And here we see 4R appearing in it. R representing the home. R representing the one who stabilizes, the one who brings harmony to the community. And here, combined with the number 4, representing the physical world. And it's like, look, okay, in order to have, kind of like that faith in who we are and where we're going, we need a stable base. The home, 4, physicality. Again, might be a stay-at-home day. Might be a great day for those projects around the home. Sometimes we're so busy flying around in our daily lives, doing what it is we do and having fun and, going on journeys and whatever it might be, that we allow physical parts of our home to kind of like lapse a little bit. We need to kind of like get onto it. We need to, kind of like tidy up this, repair that, paint this wall, whatever it might be. And for me, there is something about 4R that's very much about getting your physical house in order, okay? Because if you're here to accept guidance, if you're here to guide, if you're here to have loyalty and unconditionally love your family and all of those kind of things, it's like, well, part of the what we need in order to do that is a good stable foundation, which 4R brings exactly that. It's not a day of like weird dynamic moves. It's not a day of surprises, I don't think, not 4R. It's more about creating that stability within the home from which you can radiate to bring the stability to your community, because that's also, the harmony and like the harmony within the community. And here it's all about physically stabilizing it. And so it's actually going out and doing physical things that help to, your family, your home, your community to thrive. From 4 Ach, we then move into 5 Ish. 5 Ish, a wonderful day to be working on your magic. Okay, Ish, the Nawal of our connection to the Mother Earth, a Nawal of our connection to the sacred sites, to the sacred within us and the sacred all around us. And here with the number 5, representing work, going and putting our effort into it. It's kind of like we say in England, put your money where your mouth is. There's no good talking about it. No good talking about kind of like making ceremony, sacred sites and all that kind of thing if we're never actually doing it. The really important thing is that we're actually going, putting our energy into visiting those sites, connecting with Mother Earth, doing something to help along the way. And so 5 Ish for me, a very important day. Some of you might know why. Absolutely, kind of like a day to go and put your energy into your connection with Mother Earth. How can you expect to connect with her if you, kind of like you can't expect it to drop in your lap. You've got to go out there and make the effort to show your appreciation, perhaps doing some local environmental cause or making ceremony, going to sacred site. But, kind of like 5 days, like I say, when we put our energy into it, it's not always just going to happen like a drop of a hat. It's about us having that dedication, that faith, that loyalty in connection with the sacred. This is what might drive our desire to make that happen. Okay, so 5 Ish should be a really good day for doing that. From 5 Ish, we then move into 6 Tz'ikin. So maybe you can hear the bird sounds around me and the lake lapping at my feet. Well, it was the bird sounds I was getting at really with Tz'ikin. Tz'ikin, the Nawal of the bird. Tz'ikin, the Nawal of the visionary. And here with the number 6, again we see this kind of like stability, but here drawing on the heart of the sky and the heart of the earth to bring that stability in. If we see Tz'ikin as the vision or the visionary, then this is a very, very important day to stabilize your vision. And it's like, again, if we go back to those themes of faith and loyalty, unconditional love in some ways as well, it's like, if we have a vision for the future, what do we need to bring it in? The number 6, if we're drawing on above and below, this is kind of like divine inspiration coming to us to help to either bring the vision to us that gives us faith in where we're going, or perhaps it brings the clarity in the vision that we already hold that renews our faith in where we are going, where, what we are doing. As I said, kind of like with all the stuff that's going on in the world, we get a bit distracted from actually kind of like, if I stopped reading, kind of like some of the terrible things that are happening, and it's not about not being informed, but have we lost the focus in, our own evolution? Have we lost the focus in what we can do for our family or for our community? Or 6 Tz'ikin may be a great day to be asking, the heart of the sky and the heart of the earth to bring that into stability, to remind us of our vision and to help us to understand how to apply that vision for our family in particular. From 6 Tz'ikin, we then move into 7 Ajmak. So 7 Ajmak, the Nawal of faith, the Nawal of redemption, the Nawal of forgiveness. And here we see that forgiveness with the number 7. And the number 7, which can very much represent finality, can very much represent endings. Now, I like to see 7 Ajmak as it's final forgiveness. It's like drop it and move on. Okay? It's draw a line under it. I would like to, put in here my own personal kind of like theory or idea. It's not forgive and forget. Okay, forgive and forget. If we forgot the lesson, it's going to happen again. So don't forget what's happened. That's negating the learning process, as it were. But do we really want to be dragging stuff around? How long do we want to be dragging it around for? We've identified the people that we can trust and the people that we can't. Remember that like Tz'i is also associated with trust, faith and loyalty. People that we're loyal to, people that we're not. If you've had, so let's say you've put your loyalty there, you put your faith there or whatever, maybe somebody betrayed your faith and that kind of thing. It's like, right, okay, yes, okay, that happened. That's a bad thing. We can all agree on that. But how long do we want to carry around that weight for? How long do we want to carry around that scar? Do we spend our lives staring at the scar, which, let's face it, is not going to go away? Well, it's fading in time, but, if we're staring at that, we're missing all of that that's going around. So, draw a line under things. Move on from them. Yeah, like I say, don't forget them. Don't forget who perpetrated what. Like maybe you've adjusted your levels of, trust credit, as it were, that certain people or organisations or whatever they might be have. But don't let it drag you down. Move on from it. Like, stop talking about it. Move on and look to the future as to where you're going to put your faith now, rather than kind of like being held back by this burden of like blame or shame or guilt. It's like draw a line under it and move on. Don't forget about it. From 7 Ajmak, we then move into 8 Noach. Now, yes, it would be the ceremonial day of this Trecena. But there's also something interesting, that this is the first of the 5 days at the end of the solar year, the Tz'apin Q'ij. Okay? Now, I will do separate communications about the Tz'apin Q'ij and kind of like things surrounding each of those days. But it begins 5 days of introspection. It begins 5 days where some people will call it time without time. I'm not entirely sure that I know the sentiment. It's like time without guidance. It's the time of the solar year when the way that I would see it is that the grandfather, the mam, the cargador of the year 12 Noach, you remember the 12 Noach is the year that we're in, well, let's say that he's now exhausted, he's done. He's done his 360 days and he has maybe abandoned ship, as it were. And who's coming to replace him? 8 Noach. Well, you remember that 8 Noach, maybe you do, was the year lord of 2020, the cargador of 2020. It's almost like for 5 days, all that's guiding the boat is the ghost of the captain of the previous, kind of like incarnation. Don't take that too literally. That's, kind of like a way that I'm trying to explain that this is a part of the year where the guidance is a little bit off, let's say. Imagine that you are in a boat and that boat goes into a thick bank of fog for 5 days. What do you do? Well, there's some people that might say, right, okay, we want to get out, so we're going to put it in forwards and we're going to try and get out. Well, you can't see anything. It's like the path is unsure, it's uncertain. So, like the obvious answer would be to drop anchor and just sit it out. And so this is why it's like 5 days of introspection, 5 days where, things might be a bit funky out there, so you got to stay home and think about things. It's not like usually seen as a time for public gathering or public ceremony or those kind of things. It's a time to review what's happened in the energy of the previous Mam 12 Noh, the last 360 days, and it's a time to set your intentions for the coming year of 13 which we'll get to in a little while. Okay? So 5 days of introspection, 5 days of meditation, 5 days of, kind of like sorting things out. Again, it's kind of cleaning up house, getting ready for the new year to come in. And we begin that period on this day, Washikib Noach, 8 Noach, the day of intellect, the day of the mind, the day of problem solving. Washikib Noach, the day of the knowledge that comes to us, helping to use our brains about it, use our minds about it. It is a celebration of information, as it could be, bringing all of our information together. And the way I see the 8 as representing wholeness, it's the whole spectrum from 1 to 7, from beginning to end. Okay? It's all of that put together. And understanding we can't cherry pick the information. We need to take the information as a whole in order to understand how to come up with a solution. And perhaps this is something to do with our renewal of faith. We need to look at all of the information. Washikib Noch might be a great day to make a ceremony to give thanks for the knowledge that we carry and those who bring it to us. Washikib Noch is a great day to use your whole brain, as it were, to understand how to solve the problem, how to come up with a solution. From Washikib Noch, we then move into Belhab Tihash, 9 Tihash. 9 Tihash. Tihash, the Nawal of purification. Tihash, the Nawal of the obsidian blade, the Nawal of the warrior and the Nawal of the healer. And here seen with the number 9, representing life, representing the feminine. Bringing that feminine touch to the warrior, the female warrior. I always think, kind of like of the strong female warriors, whether they're Amazons or whether Joan of Arc or whoever it might be, because there is something, kind of like there's a divinity about that Tihash. We can see 9 Tihash as, kind of like doing these things, being a warrior for life, being a spiritual warrior for life. We can see it as, yes, it is the feminine aspect of warriorship. It's also the feminine aspect of healing. And Tihash, we see it connected with energetic healing. Yes, we can see it connected with surgery. Incidentally, if if you got to book a surgery, then 9 Tihash might be a great day to do it. But we can see that energetically it works like that. And the 9 can represent life and life force. So it's kind of like life force energy, healing. 9 Tihash is a wonderful day for that. Now, of course, we will be in the Tz'apin Q'ij, so maybe this isn't time to go out on a crusade or something like that. But perhaps part of this Trecena, part of that renewal of faith or renewal of loyalty, perhaps, getting some healing with the women in your location, may be a good way to incorporate that into your day. Perhaps that's just what you need, kind of like as part of your retreat, taking a bit of time off your normal daily duties, perhaps during those 5 days of Tz'apin Q'ij. Then 9 Tihash may provide a great opportunity to, kind of like enter a healing practice with the women in your locality. From 9 Tihash, we then move into 10 Kawok. So again, Kawok we can see as the feminine aspect of healing. And here with 10, a number which can represent coming to agreements, a number which can represent community, bringing healing to the community. Now, Kawok is also, it's the energy which represents the rain, it's the energy that represents the midwife, it's all about new growth. And here with the community, it's like, how can we join hands? How can we come to agreements to bring the new out into the world? That new that we had faith about bringing into the world. The new life, because Kawok is all about bringing new life. Now, Kawok is also, I like to think of Kawok, we often see there's a bit of tough love going with Kawok. Her instinct, her job is to bring that new life in at whatever cost it might take. And that kind of like can sometimes mean there's going to be some harsh truths coming out. But that's the way that we bring it in. Sometimes we need that to happen. And here we see it within the community. So it's like, in order to bring growth, really looking at things in great clarity, so that we can go through that birthing process to bring the growth into community. From 10 Kawok, we then move into 11 Ajpu. Ajpu representing the divine path, and the number 11. We don't know which way it's going to go next. It's highly creative because it takes much more of an intuitive path. Much more of a, kind of like a path which just comes to, hey, I think I need to go and investigate that, or I need to go investigate that. And what, which way is that path taking us? Well, Ajpu representing the spiritual path, representing the connection with the ancestors, also representing, kind of like the hero's journey that each of us is on. And the 11, well, that might take us in a direction that we never thought of. Now, of course, we're still in the Tz'apin Q'ij. We were on the 4th day of the Tz'apin Q'ij. We're in this 4th day of retreat. And perhaps as you sit in contemplation and you're working out, kind of like where you might be going forwards in the next year or so, perhaps things come to you from really unexpected sources. Perhaps there's different avenues to follow that you hadn't thought of before. Different paths to your heroship, different paths to your, or different ways of following your spiritual path that you hadn't necessarily considered before. Perhaps 11 Ajpu is a great day to pay attention to them. See what comes to you. See what the hero wants to bring in for you. And this again might come through that contemplation. From 11 Ajpu, we then move into 12 Imox. So Imox, of course, the Nawal of the lake, the great bodies of water, the Nawal of the dreaming, the dream world. Imox, the Nawal of our connection with each other, the connection with our, kind of like our little psychic antennae that are connected empathically with everybody else around us. Helping us to feel what others feel, helping us to understand what others understand. They're also what brings us our dreams, and our dreams that bring us our guidance. Well, here we see that connected with the number 12, and that number 12 bringing together all of our life experience, bringing together the life experience that helps to guide us through life, bringing together the life experience that helps us to understand how to manifest our dreams into reality. Now, this is the final day of the Tz'apin Q'ij. And that final day can be very much about crystallization for what's going into the future. It's like, right, okay, we've gone through these 5 days of contemplation and retreat, taking our time in order to actually think about things and actually have a bit of a year review, a life review and all that kind of thing. And now it's time to say, right, okay, how am I going to take it forward? What do I want to bring in? And it's like, how can I use my life experience in order to understand how to manifest this dream into this next year? And yes, it might be pulling on, kind of like, I think the phrase I want to use is read the room, that's the kind of like that feeling that's going on. What's going on? What's needed from me in society? What's needed for, kind of like to help to bring faith back to people, to help to bring all this stuff back to people? 12 Imox may be the time to use your life experience to put those dreams together, to put those understandings together, and to use our life experience to discern between what our antennae need to pick up and what they don't need to pick up. Because I often say that Imox, as the crazy one, it goes crazy because it gets deluged with too much information. It's too busy listening to all the chatter that's out there in the noosphere or whatever it might be, the human consciousness around this planet. And sometimes that takes us down some very weird lines because, hang on, why am I obsessively reading about this? I wasn't even interested in it 3 weeks ago or whatever it might be. Isn't it time to remember our own dreams? And we get that by taking a retreat by water, being away from the news, being away from our phones, being away from all of those things that, let's say, pollute our consciousness, especially on a high number day. It's like, whose dream is it anyway? Whose thoughts are it anyway? How do you want to use your life experience to discern what is your dream and what is the dream of others? That might be a really interesting theme. And then how can you use that life experience to manifest that dream into this coming year? Frog started. And then finally, we end up on the day 13 Q'ij. We could see this as the first day of the new solar year, the day 0 Nabe Mam in the highland calendar. 13 Q'ij also completes a cycle that began in 2013. This first 13-year cycle post 2012 is getting tied up in this year. It began on 1 Ich in 2013 and it ends on 13 Ich coming in right now. Okay, so again, I will write more for sure about the arrival of the new man. Maybe I'll even make a little video about it or something like that. We can see various things. Firstly, let's take it from the Trecena perspective. What does 13 Ich represent? Ich, the wind. Ich, communication. Ich, our life breath, the breath of life. And our words. Now, Ich, yes, it can be the gentle breeze, which is making these lovely waves. A bit different to the last time I was making a video down here. And it was very windy. But Ich can also be the hurricane. Ich can be the one who provides the inspirational words, but Ich can also provide destructive words. And here we have it turned up to 13. Now, there's, like everything else, it all depends on the way we want to use it and, well, the way we employ it. We can think of 13 as the highest number. We can think of 13 as the strongest number. We can think of 13 Ich as having the potential for great destruction through the word. It is very important when we're talking about Ich days, I think anyway. It's like when we're talking about Ich days, we got to mind our words. Be mindful of our words. Not necessarily censor ourselves or anything like that, but realize on an Ich day it's going to get magnified as it comes out your mouth. Do you really want it magnified? Does it need to be magnified? Have you already given it enough strength? Imagine if you're using angry words on the day 13 Ich, how they are going to land. You may well cut off way more than you can chew. You may be like the hurricane that's gone through and destroyed stuff. Is that really what your intention was? In this Trecena of faith and loyalty and unconditional love and justice? Now, we can also see 13 Ich. If we're 13 is spirit and Ich is communication, could be a very interesting day to receive messages from the ancestors. Could be a very interesting day for any form of mediumship or automatic writing or however it might be that you contact the ancestors. 13 Ich might be a really powerful day. In fact, you might not have to put too much effort into doing it because it's already coming through loud and clear. You may even find those messages coming through people around you who are acting as a vessel for the ancestors. Now this, of course, is also the beginning of the year. And we can see, yes, there's a 13-year cycle that would have gone from 2013 to 2025. I know you might say, well, that's not 13 years, but by the time it gets around 2026, we'll have completed 13, and that's the way it works. But we can also see that this is part of a 52-year cycle. And interestingly enough, that 52-year cycle would go, let's say 2025 is a 13 Ich year, and 1973 was also a 13 Ich year. Again, I'll go into this in more detail and kind of like another part of it. But just to get your kind of like your ideas started, just to get you thinking. Perhaps what happens in 2025 may be in some ways a reproduction, like a reboot of 1973. So if you look back to 1973, what were the themes there? What was going on there? What was happening there? Because, if we look at time, rather than being just linear, as being spiral, we come back to the same themes every time we come to the same part of the spiral. So perhaps 2025 may have similar themes to 1973. So if you go back and have a look at the history for 1973, what was going on then? What might you choose to prepare for that may happen in 2025 as a kind of like reflection of what was going on in 1973? Interesting times to think about. Okay? So anyway, I hope that that's been interesting to you. I think I've had... let me just see if we can capture that cloud. That one over there looks superb from here. I don't know how it'll come out there. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I look forward to speaking with you again, well, perhaps just before the Tz'apin Q'ij, but certainly in 13 days' time, as we will begin the Trecena of Tz'i. Thank you.